Welcome back to the part 3 of the Dawah Bridge special, Black Pilgrimage to Islam. I have with me a new guest, Brother Ismail Lee South,
Yes.
who's going to join us for the duration, inshallah, of the conversation.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullah ta'ala wa barakatuh.
Thank you
Good to
for
see
having
you,
me,
bro.
yes.
Good to see you, bro. So, we were speaking before the break. Brother Dan Juma was saying about the impact that the individual formerly known as Cassius Clay, now Muhammad Ali, his influence at the time when he was at the height of his professional prowess as a boxer and I would say orator and a teacher, that he had a massive effect on Islam. He was in the middle of that, but obviously because of timing, we had to pay some bills with the adverts. But as you were saying, Professor.
Well, what I was going on to say is not only was, like you rightly just pointed out, not only was he a boxer, he was a political activist. He was the man who is credited with the phrase, no Viet Cong ever called me a Nigger.
Yeah.
I am not going to war. He's the man who said, look, I went and fought abroad, Golden Gloves, came back with my medal, thought I could go into a restaurant in Louisville, Kentucky, where I was brought up, and there was a sign on the door saying, you know, no Negroes allowed. And he said he took off his, well, it is the joke when they said that, you know, he went into the restaurant and they said to him, sorry, sir, we don't serve any Negroes. And he said, well, I don't need them. You know, they all joking. But I don't know if he really, I think he said that was apocryphal. I think he made that as a joke after. That's how we deal with these situations. But he took his Golden Gloves medal and he threw it into the river. He said, and then when they called him up for the draft, he said, look, you know, none of these people have ever been racist towards me. No Vietnamese has been ever racist towards me. Why am I going to fight in this war? It's not my war. And that actually mobilized and it gave added strength to the already, you know, burgeoning protest against Lyndon Johnson. You know, white students, black students, the length and breadth of America. So Muhammad Ali has to also be remembered in the context of Islam, his Islam being a catalyst to his social conscience. And that a lot of us were attracted by that in the Caribbean, in Britain, and the whole notion of the black political factor in Islam was, you couldn't in the 70s, you couldn't untie the one from the other. They were linked.
They were inseparable.
That, and to me, in my personal opinion, that
That marriage or that union,
the
union.
parting of the ways that happened to me was unfortunate. And it came about the more we knew, paradoxically, the more we got to know about Islam, the more we felt it was incompatible with racial politics. There is some substance to that argument. In fact, there's a lot of substance to that argument. But there is another side to the argument that says, yes, we are created in tribes and nations. So you know the old verse, إِنَّا خَلَقْنَاكُم مِّن ذَكَرٍ وَأُنثَىٰ وَجَعَلْنَاكُمْ شُعُوبًا وَقَبَائِلَ لِتَعَارَفُوا أَكْرَمَكُمْ عِندَ اللَّهِ أَتْقَاكُمْ. You know, you can interpret, there are many ways of interpreting that. I take it like this, brother Bilal. There are some people, I'm going to put it in simple terms, have too much culture. And then there are some people who have too little.
Yes.
You can't apply a
Good talk.
one-size-fit-all concept of you're being too nationalistic to the whole human race. For people who, like Nazi Germany, of course they have a little too much culture in that negative sense. We could stand to do it a little less of that. But on the other hand, when you come to a people who have been alienated from their culture and then told to hate what little they have left, if these people are on a path towards trying to get themselves together, know who they are, that should be encouraged. And that is the problem when they encountered heritage communities who couldn't understand their journey, their path was different. And when I say this, I'm adding European or British, English, white converts too. They couldn't understand that being convert in and of itself was not enough for them to make identically common cause with the African Caribbean convert. Their paths and journeys were different in a lot of ways. And I just want to stop it and ask Brother Ismail if he can concur with any of what I've said. What do you think of any of that?
Yes,
Come in, Brother
I
Ishmael,
would,
come in,
I would
come in.
say that basically, like, from someone who came into Islam in the 90s, early 90s, whereby we were influenced by people like Public Enemy, Intelligent Hoodlum, Eric B. and Rakim, Big Daddy Kane, who were doing their rapping, and in the middle of their raps they might say Inshallah or Allahu Akbar or read the Quran. So by being someone who came into Islam through that influence, and there was a big influx of us
Self as well, man. Self as well.
who
I came
came
in that
in,
era, yeah.
Islam like that. So when we came into Islam, it was through identity, because many of us never know our history. We never knew who Malcolm X who he was. So but recently, this is the anniversary of the
50th
50th
commemoration,
anniversary commemoration of Malcolm X's martyrdom. So basically, through learning about Malcolm X, so many of us came into Islam. So even the management of one of the most Salafia mosques in South London today, when I spoke to them and they asked me how they came into Islam, they said they used to be a big rap group. That when they heard the same things and they were influenced by Malcolm X and they all converted to Islam. Now these people now are the management of the most Salafi mosques in South London. Now what I've personally seen is when you try to retain who you are and your identity, you have certain people who say, oh, you're racist, oh, you're nationalist, because of what the Professor Dan Juma said, because certain other communities have done it to the excess. That means that they started to think if you try to retain anything, you're a nationalist too. And then what happens is some of our people, we feel afraid to show our blackness to other people. We become afraid to talk our history in front of other people. And then sadly, when you read certain texts that have been mistranslated, and when you hear things like saying, if you see a black woman in the street, you have to, so like superstitions and things like this.
Crazy stuff. There's some crazy
stuff.
literature.
There's some
Crazy.
literature.
Yeah.
Then what makes me sad is when we see when I see my own people believing that, and then we're being taught, what you hear a lot of, and I've heard a lot of it, you hear black sisters being told when they go to the mosques, senior officials within the mosque telling them, don't marry black brothers, your children will come out too dark. And likewise, black brothers being told, marry an Arab or an Asian sister because they're from Muslim families, so they could adjust better to Islam than a revert sister who's black. So that now you see that many brothers have been encouraged to marry not to marry their own. So now we're seeing many reverts post the noughties and now don't want to marry their own. Don't get me wrong, Islam teaches us we're one nation, but at least we must love ourselves, love who we are. And what I'm seeing now, I'm seeing a self-hate on another level.
Yeah, and I understand what you're saying, because Islam teaches us you marry who you like.
Yes.
Right, but sometimes what is behind that, how you've been engineered in a particular direction, that is what could be harmful.
Yes.
That is what could be problematic. Would you agree with that, Professor?
Yes, I think that we are almost making a fake justification for exogamy, for marrying out. We're doing it with a studied obsessiveness that I think is worrying. And what I want to say about this is the thing I'm going to say now is not going to be very flattering to us. But we have been halalifying a lot of our psychoses. Instead of curing, Islam has the ability to cure, to be the remedy
and a
to
catalyst.
these problems.
Yeah.
Yes. Instead, what's happening, Brother Bilal, is that we are bringing our problems into Islam, working Islam around them in a sort of way, and halalifying and perpetuating the psychoses and the problems. And it's worse, and I'll tell you why it's worse. It's worse because now we think Islam allows us to do it. So now if we have 4 wives and we're all on welfare and we're not supporting, we say, well, at least you see they can pray. They're at home. They can say their prayers. They can wear their hijab. So I'm being very godly here. Look how religious I am. And the state's taking care of them. And blah, blah, blah. And these children are there. Or parking polygamy for a minute. You have a kind of a serial monogamy with astonishing rapidity. So you marry the sister A and then
don't work out
the sister B and all around the alphabet, and you have all these children in their train, and the same problems in Jahiliyyah are being halalified and replicated under the guise of Islam. You have domestic violence being halalified under we can beat them. You have so many things that are happening under. Basically, it's an abuse of the religion, and we really have to come to terms with our own agency in doing this.
I like this term, halalified. Actually, there is because you mentioned about trauma. There is a doctor in America, is it Joy DeGruy, who talks about this condition called post-traumatic slave disorder. It's more or less, in essence, she's talking about like a transgenerational trauma, or as it sounds like, the ramifications of that turbulent experience in the Caribbean, in the Americas, and the learnt behavior, not necessarily like a genetic, but like a learnt behavior, certain dysfunctional traits or certain challenging traits passed down from generation to generation because of the things that Africans had gone through. Islam being the medicine for humanity, how does it speak to this?
Well,
you touched on it, but I'd like to even expand on your idea.
I try to look at our particular dilemma in this way. It is as if you give a man a toolbox. This is a toolbox. It has all the tools, but the problem is the nerves that connect his brain to his fingers do not work. So he has the toolbox, but his fingers, his digits are incapable of manipulation. They can't even open the toolbox. And to me, that is the Quran, and that's our problem. And there's something that needs to be solved before. So it's not that Islam is incapable of solving. You see, people have this notion that if your car breaks down, you can just take out the Quran and find a verse for how to fix the gearbox. Well, it doesn't mean that. When people say Islam has all the solutions to the world's problems, they have to understand what they mean when they're saying this. Because we have minutiae, you have areas of the nitty-gritty, the fine details, which you take Islam and apply to it, but according to the kind of the problem you've got. Now, we have what you call post-slavery trauma disorder, whatever you call it now.
That's right.
A situation like that requires a modern approach with the Quran, because that problem of transatlantic slavery didn't take place before the Prophet. It took place after the time of the Prophet. Right? Whatever happened before, yes, you could see that Islam, he spoke about drinking, he spoke about the gambling, he could make clear-cut rules, prohibitions for certain things, recognizing the virulence of the problem in the society. Now, the slavery in the time of Islam, in fact, it is very difficult to apply the word slave and slavery to what happened to Bilal as to what happened in transatlantic slavery. It's two different
institutions
in scale, in form, in atrocity, in level. Look, it is easier to call Arabia and the Middle East societies with slaves, whereas America you could quite easily call a slave society. Hear the difference. The Middle East, even during the time of Islam, you could say this is a society with slaves. Just like the Roman Empire had slaves. But I shouldn't go there because that's obfuscating the issue. But let's just take the Middle East and or even Africa. Africa was a society with slaves. America was a slave society.
Big difference.
That's the difference. And the truth is, Islam did not have the kind of legislation to deal with that particular kind of slavery, because obviously it happened after.
Interesting. Brother Ismail, on the topic, I know you organized a forum recently, early January, under the Love Muhammad banner, but I think it was African Caribbean Muslim Summit. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Basically, I run a small initiative called the Salam Project, and sometimes I do work with other groups and organizations. So sometimes I do some work with an organization called Mosques and Imams National Advisory Board, and they work in conjunction with Al Khawi. So basically I was asked to do something with them, and when I was there, part of me was shocked to see, I saw it was a predominantly Arabs and Asian Muslims from around London. I saw Arab and Asian Muslims who were Sunni, Shia, Sufi, and nearly all forms of school of thought, all at one place.
One table,
sitting down, talking about how to find resolutions for the Muslim community in the wake of these terrorism and so forth. And one of the people involved in Minna wanted me to do some work with them. But I was shocked to see Salafis, Sunnis, Shias, Sufis of different school of thoughts all sitting down together, working together. So when I saw this, I was thinking, how come these people are working together? But when I look at my community, I'm seeing Sunnis, Shias, Sufis, Salafis, and etc. hating each other, fighting each other, we're slandering each other, even going to kill each other. So I think we need to find a way where we can work together, because all other communities are trying to work together, but we're not working together. Even though we've come to Islam, as black Muslims, if we be honest, we've become more divided. We've been more fragmented. This is my personal opinion.
Analysis, yeah.
This is my This is my opinion. Now, what I'm seeing, and I even got a telephone call today from another Asian brother who has got a new organization in response to the wake of the rise of the UKIP party. He's gathered a group of Muslims. The organizations he mentioned are saying Sunni, Shia, Sufi, all groups, and he's got them all together, working together to challenge the UKIP party and promote Muslims in politics. So anyway, from this I thought we have to find a way of working.
I think I know what you're talking about, but we won't go into that.
Yeah, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Good brother, good brother.
Very good brother.
Good brother.
So basically, I was looking at my own community, and I was looking at, sorry, before I go into that, I was looking at a brother called Rahul. He's Bengali origin, and he's a community activist. And I've noticed how he works with all of the Bengalis. He works with Bengalis, Sunni, Shias, and so forth, and he's connected to he works with all Bengalis. And his aim is to do positive work within the Bengali community. And he networks with all of his Bengalis.
Beautiful, beautiful.
So when I met him, and I was so inspired by him. So by him, I thought, you know what, I need to work with my community, African and African Caribbean Muslims in the UK, in London especially, and whether they be Sunni, Shia, Sufi. So I thought, let's organize an African Caribbean Muslim summit. So I had it in my mind. I spoke to Professor Danjuma about it and so forth. We were supposed to do it a long time ago, but the reality is I never had the funds for it. Then I got a phone call from someone who works with Love Muhammad. He said, look, Ismail, we've attended to one of your events, and basically we want to sponsor anything you want to do. Is there anything you have in mind? I said, I want to do an African Caribbean Muslim summit that gets African Caribbean Muslims, Sunnis, Shias, Sufis, sitting down together in peace, love, and harmony. Because one of the things I think we lack among us is love. We don't love each other. And don't get me wrong, I'm not Mr. Lover man.
You're not Senior Love Daddy.
I'm not Mr. Lover, halal style. But anyway, I'm saying we don't really love each other, and I'm talking myself included. And I've seen other communities. They're different school of thoughts, and they're different groups and sects, but they find ways of working together. So anyway, that's why we thought let's do the African Caribbean Muslim Summit. So we had Sunnis, Shias, Sufis, Salafis all come together, and we have lectures from Professor Danjuma. We had Sheikh Hassan, we had Brother Rashid Rose, and we had Sheikh Mohammed Zakaria, and also we had poetry from Brother Ahmed Ikhlas, and we had a non-Muslim people as well, Brother Robin Walker, who's an African historian, and Sister Keita, who's a descendant of Mansa Musa.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah.
So basically, this was just the aim, was to promote unity. We said, look, you're Sunni, you're Shia, you're Sufi, you're Salafi, we're all African Caribbean, let's find a way to work together. So alhamdulillah, we made a first step by the brother from a Salafi-inspired mosque in Acton, came over to Sheikh Zakaria, who's a Shia, and said, let's find a way to work together. So just seeing
the brothers reached out in Islam, and
he came over and hugged him, if I correct it. I was shocked, because part of me was thinking, do I really want to do this? Is this going to cause me?
How is this going to play out?
How is it going to play out? Because the reality is, I know people say things about the Nation of Islam. What happened was, I never tell everybody this, the Nation of Islam contacted me, a member, a brother called Hakeem, 2 weeks before, and they said that they want to be part of it as well. And I said, yes, you could come. But they were saying, can we be put on the flyer as well? I said, I'll be honest with you, I've got African Caribbean, Sunnis, Shias, and Sufis together, and I don't know how it's going to turn out. If I have the I don't know how it's going to turn that. But having Nation of Islam, that's going to be too much stress on my neck. So can you please forgive me? And I can't. Just come. So anyway, they took it personal, but now they're saying they want to be part of it. So that was nice. But I just think that
so dialogue and sitting down at the table is the way forward.
That was the way forward.
Yeah.
And because I'm seeing a lot of our sisters are financially suffering, and sometimes we have to go to these, with all due respect, Arab and Asian organizations. And the reality is, no disrespect to them, and I understand where they're coming from. They're looking out for their community. So we need to find ways where we can look out for our community, and especially our sisters.
As Brother Rashid Rose always talks about Islamomics.
That's it. Economics.
Islanomics.
Many of us are among our community, because people say, "Oh, black brothers don't know." But I've met many black brothers and sisters who are entrepreneurs and who are working professionals, who are lecturers, academics. But what I've noticed, we're not connecting.
Okay.
We're not. There's no network.
So the potential, the barak of Allah is there, but it's not being
met.
Not yet.
Not yet. So
Not
the
yet,
intention is to find a way where we could build a network among the academics, among the business people and the entrepreneurs, amongst the working professionals, so we can benefit our community. We still show love to all of our white Muslim brothers, our Asian Muslim brothers and sisters, Arab Muslim brothers and sisters, but there's a saying, charity begins at home. We're giving charity to everything but everyone else, but we're not benefiting ourselves, and we're not really, as a community, giving a good impression of Islam to our non-Muslim African Caribbean brothers and sisters.
Great point.
So
Bring in the
That's
professor.
a
Bring in the
lovely
professor.
point.
Bring in the
Because,
professor. Bring in the
you see,
professor.
I always say this. I don't want this to be us speaking only to ourselves all the time. When you read the Voice newspaper, and I stopped buying it, but I was an avid reader of the Voice, and I remember when Mike Tyson was accused of, you know what he was accused of, and the Voice newspaper ran an article, and they had to say things like, oh, well, Mike Tyson's become a Muslim now, well, let him go. At least now we can do it to 4 women. Now, things like that. Now, I'm not, what I'm trying to say is, in the Caribbean community or the black community, Muslims are still seen as an aberration. We're an oddity. We're still a strange thing. We're not just a strange thing to the West. We're a strange thing to our own people. The Voice newspaper and other newspapers that purport to speak for the black community
powerful
hardly
point.
feature us.
Yeah.
So what Brother Ismail is saying is, in order, perhaps they have a point. Maybe we're not making our case
Strong enough.
creditably enough.
Yeah.
Maybe we're not a credit to what we're meant to represent, and we should start doing that. And then more of our people will say, hey, you know something? This is because look, the truth is, Brother Bilal, nobody joins something to become worse off.
Indeed.
However you want to measure goodness.
Well, however you measure success. People.
Nobody wants to. You're dressed like a ragtag and bobtail in the streets, and you expect our people. No, look at me. I'm wearing my African clothes, but I choose to wear a good embroidery and so on. I'm not going to go down and wear the worst of thobes and look like some cast off from some Arab play. Look, they were our brothers in the depth of, which is wool, by the way, in the depth of winter, our brothers are wearing Chinese-made thobes. Up to and all their ankles, and they get all arthritis in the old ankle. It sounds like I'm targeting one particular sect of Muslims. I'm not doing that because I love them for the sake of Allah. But what I'm saying is, we are importing cultural ideas wholesale without using our own discrimination, our own minds.
Scrutiny, lack of
yes,
scrutiny.
lack of scrutiny. We'd rather dress like an Asian or an Arab than an African. We'd rather do it, and then if it comes to it, we dress like a Westerner rather than an African. As if there is something wrong with being African, and that's what I was saying to you in the 70s. We
get back to this. Come on, now, bring it home. Bring it home.
I'm going to come to it now. Before you, the second part of the program, we were talking about the connection. Now, I'm going to confess quite, without concealing it, I'm a Pan-Africanist.
Yes.
I am a Pan-Africanist. I'm not going to conceal that from anybody. That's my stall set out there. I believe, look, if you can find a greater connection with the Ousmane and Fodio people, the people of Al-Hajj Omar Tal of Senegal, the people of Hamad Bari, Suleiman Bal, I can call the roll call of Islamic African scholars and reformers is immense. And there is so much knowledge they've put out there. Groups like the Jahanke, the self-help organizations that spread Islam into the forested zones of West Africa. Among the people, the Manding Jula forming their groups, the Soare group of people in Sierra Leone and Liberia. Right? The amount of good work these people did. So it's not just about the royals, the Mansa Musas, and the Sunjata Keitas, the big royal empires of Ghana, Mali, Songhai, and Kanem-Borno. It's about them too. It's good to speak about our nobility and our royalty, but we had people, missionary groups of Africans, working quietly as traders. They weren't sitting there on the dole. They were trading in villages and giving dawah at the same time. They set up a school. They taught children to read and write in Arabic.
We're sorry to jump in. We're approaching that end. And I would like you, in maybe 2 sentences each, to summarize and to leave the audience with a takeaway gift. I'll leave mine now. The future, inshallah, is bright, and success is ordained by Allah if we follow the instructions.
Ameen. And I pray that African and African Caribbean Muslims in the UK find a way to love each other and find a way to work together and find a way not to blame other communities for what they've done through their hard work, but find ways of positively working to build our own community.
That's
in the
Professor.
UK.
Well, I would just like to say, you know, I can't remember, I don't have the Quran in my hand. Surah Al-Infitar starts with 4 verses. Is السماء انفطرت, is إذا الكواكب انتثرت, but it goes on to say وإذا القبور بعثرت علمت نفس ما قدمت وأخرت. علمت نفس ما قدمت وأخرت. Every soul will. It says when that day comes and the graves are overturned and the seas are issued, the stars fall, you know, that time comes. علمت نفس ما قدمت وأخرت. Every soul will know what it has
Sent forth.
Sent forth and held back. That is our obligation. Before that day comes, let us have the reckoning that we have sent forth our best. That is my message to our people.
Hassan. You've heard it. A very, very invigorating and powerful program today, and hope to see you next week, inshallah, on the Dawah Bridge. Until that time, stay safe. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuhu.